My name is Ashley, and this is Let's Talk Dispatch.
I do. You're gonna do it. Do it really well.
And I believe the world needs more dispatchers.
Around in the mud, blood, and beer.
Years that I'm not working 4th of July. 4th of July.
Say community policing, right? What about community dispatch?
So on this show, with the help of my guests, we will educate, empower, and support the heroes behind the headset. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode here at Let's Talk Dispatch. And, for this week, I have to say, day shift for me is here. If you follow me on Instagram, I've been complaining about it, made a few dramatic reels. My dispatch center, we switch our shifts every 4 months. And so on this turnaround, I got pushed off a graveyard and have to go into a day shift. So I officially worked my last graveyard shift for this cycle Sunday, and I'm going to be officially joining you day walkers out there. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm a little afraid. And when I say I'm afraid I'll like it. More specifically, I'm afraid my body will like it because I've spent the past almost 5 years doing swings or graveyard the majority of my career. And because of that, I think this switch to day shift is going to do my body good, which is a great segue for my next guest here, Roger Sutherland, a Healthy Shift founder. Hello, Roger. How are you?
Hi, Ash. How are you? That day shift, that dreaded day shift, hey?
Oh, I am not looking forward to it. But like I said, I really am. I think my body's going to be like, oh, this is normal. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Still 12 hours is long, but I think the switch to days is going to be a good shift, but I'm still nervous.
Oh, you have every right to be. I think I really struggle with day shift personally, and I find that I'm a lot more tired on day shift, believe it or not. So if you've got a run of day shifts, I'm generally done by about the third one. I've had enough.
I completely agree, and it's so funny that it's the same shift, right? 12 hours, but it's that getting up at 4 or 5 a.m. and then, you're home, you got to go through traffic to get home. And then by the time you're home, it's 7, you got to eat, you got to shower, and then it's like bedtime. But on nights, it's like I sleep till 2, I get a couple hours to lounge around. Even though it's the same amount of time, it just doesn't feel as, I don't know, calm.
and it's not as productive, Ash. I don't think so either, because when we are shift workers and we work shift work, I think one of the things that we do tend to find is that we can pack so much into our day between nights because we can get things done quickly and more efficiently. I've just done a podcast on this actually about the advantages of doing shift work, that we can make appointments, we can get to appointments in and out when other people can't. And I do think that we do, if we're regular shift workers, I think we do tend to find doing day shift, breaking that sleep at 5 a.m. to get up. Yeah, that's ugly, isn't it? Like, wow.
Struggle. And it's funny that we're doing this today because last night I felt personally victimized by something you posted on Instagram because it was 3 a.m. and I was scrolling because I was trying to switch my sleep schedule because I got off Sunday, so I slept my regular till 2 or 3, got up, did some errands, and then 11, 12 came and I was like, okay, I have to go to bed now because I have to start getting ready to go to day shift on Thursday. Well, 2:30 in the morning came and I was like, well, I'm up. And so then I was scrolling on my phone and I came across your Instagram post and it was like, oh, oops. I'm tired. Let me grab my phone and stare at my screen. And I was like, it's like he knows that we're going to talk about this tomorrow.
The reactions that I actually got to that one, Ashley, was unbelievable. People, it gained so much traction because everybody relates, don't they? Like, as shift workers, when we've done a run of nights, and we come out of it, it's always the first or second night that we go to sleep and then bing, we wake up wide awake at 2 o'clock in the morning. And the tendency is literally, oh, I can't sleep. Oh, wow. Let's grab the phone and hold it a few inches away from our face. And let's see if that bright light going into my eyes with all the information in the whole world can actually put me to sleep. Yeah, see, it doesn't work like that, does it?
Yeah, it wasn't very successful. It wasn't very successful.
No.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. What made you reach out to want to come on to the show with me today?
Ashley, I think the work that you're doing is fantastic. And what we need to do is we need to bring more awareness. I've got an affiliation with Police Dispatch. My partner is a police radio dispatcher. Now, she's not raspy, but she's known on the radio as well. So, and I was actually, I said to you before we started, why do they call you the raspy dispatcher? And it's funny because as much as you get to know the units on the road, they get to know you as well and look forward to you being there. And, from a, law enforcement background myself, I think it's kind of funny that when someone who you have an affiliation with comes on the radio, you just feel like, oh, I just feel so relaxed because that person's there helping me and I know they've got my back. But going into that, so my partner's a police radio dispatcher. That's how I met her. And she's been doing it for 10 years. She absolutely loves her role, like you probably do as well. And, she doesn't do shifts anymore. She used to do shifts, but she now does all the day shifts. But my daughter is a dispatcher, not a dispatcher. My apologies. My daughter is in law enforcement as well here. She's operating on the road. Her fiance is also in law enforcement. My son is a fire dispatcher. He's just graduated to fire dispatch from fire call taking here. And they work for a private company that we have here that looks after our radio call taking and dispatch. Or 000 it is here. It's not 911. It's 000.
Okay.
So we have a private company that answers our calls and handles our radio dispatch, and then we have our police monitor the room to make sure because it's critical incident operations. So, and we're making decisions as well around that. So that's important. But anyway, the thing is, I've been in this environment for a long, long time, and I watched people really starting to suffer with their health. As you know, you can see people that come on board, Ash, and then in no time at all, because they don't realize they're eating their chips and their chocolates and their lollies and they're eating that overnight. There really isn't any guidance around what you should eat, when you should eat, how you should go about doing shift work at all. And there's very limited research around that. So what we want to do is break down what the research tells us we should not do and apply that to what we should do, try and do the direct opposite to guide us as to what to do. So, so I live with my partner. She's a dispatcher. I'm completely surrounded by shift work. And that's about my story. So that's where I end up doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like you guys kept it in the family with the shift work experience, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that kind of gives you a really unique opportunity to really put the things that you are working with other folks into practice as well. Kind of practicing on your family and like, let's try this out. How did this work for you and things of that nature?
Well, it's really good, Ashley, because we've got males, we've got females, we've got, like I've got a son-in-law and a son, I've got a daughter and I've got a partner and myself. So I get a good spectrum of different people trying to do it. And what works for some doesn't work for others, as you know. Like I could tell you what to do or advise you what the best way to go about it. It doesn't work for you, but it might work for majority of the rest of the population, There's always that N1, that different person, as well. So it does give me a really good insight. Plus, I coach clients one-to-one as well. So I really do get a really good overhaul of the issues that people suffer from.
That's awesome. So how did a healthy shift come about? How did it all start outside of just your experience with shift work?
Well, to start off with, I'd worked in law enforcement for 35 years at that time. And I really did get to the stage where, I'm getting sort of towards the retirement. I'm 58 now. So I was getting to the stage at 54, 55, where I was getting close to retirement. I'd done my own body transformation where I had lost a lot of body fat. I went into a great program, and I started to develop a bit of a passion for not develop a bit. I developed a massive passion for nutrition. So I started understanding nutrition. And then I looked around and I thought, how can I apply this and what I've done? Because I've done it at 55 as a shift worker. So how can I start to apply this to other shift workers to educate? Because I know that in the 35 years that I'd done at that stage, that there was no education for shift workers as to what to eat, how to eat, when to eat, and food timing, the chrononutrition side of things. So what I did was I thought, I'm going to go off and study. And at 55, I went back to school and I went back to studying nutrition, and I studied at the gold standard, which is Mac Nutrition Uni, which is evidence-based, because I wanted an evidence-based background, not bro science and what we think works. Yeah. I wanted to know how to break down research. I wanted to know how to apply what research tells us we should not do to apply in real cases for people what we do. Or what we should be doing. And I started doing that, and I was studying at that time. I went through significant work stress at the time from within, and it caused me massive issues to the stage where even though I was fit and I was really healthy, the stress is an issue that really can get hold of you in a really big way. And you know that yourself, Ashley. You can have some shifts you can walk out at the end of the day and you just feel like skipping to the car, and other days your feet feel like you've got concrete boots on, don't they? And you feel like you're absolutely drained or stressed, and you're worried about units on the road. You're worried about those members. You're worried about those people, You do take it very personally, don't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I actually suffered what's known as a TIA, which is a transient ischemic attack, which is a minor stroke. It's like a stroke that lasts less than 24 hours, and was rushed off to hospital. And the paramedics that came and helped me, I then realised that I need to put health and well-being into what I'm actually doing as well. It's not about here's your calories, here's your macros, go away and do that. I needed to work on what are my 5 pillars of health for people. So I developed my own 5 pillars of health, which I'll go through with you in a second, which if you put 1% into that bucket every day for each of those 5 pillars, you can actually start working really well to achieving, shift work is less than optimal, but we can optimize it for ourselves. We do need shift workers, otherwise no one answers that 911 call, do they? And there's no one to tell the cops where to go. So, so what we do is we need shift workers. So you bringing awareness to it, and me doing what I'm doing, and other people out there helping shift workers is enormously beneficial now to. Because if we've got shift workers there, if they're healthy and they're optimizing what they're doing, they're actually at work providing productivity and supporting these agencies.
Totally. And one of the main things or reasons that I started reaching out and connecting with folks to bring them onto, this type of show, is because I don't have all the answers, and I need people who are going and getting that evidence-based research and then breaking it down so people like me can understand it and make sense of it, right? If I go dive into a bunch of, nutrition scholarly material, I'm not going to take away the same that you're going to take away, because you're passionate about it. It's a language you understand. So we need to connect with each other so I can get all the info from you that you have available that can benefit me in my life and my shift work, right?
Exactly right. So you can be a mediator, because you can bring sleep experts on. You can bring, you don't have to be the jack of all trades, Ashley.
Exactly.
You can be the mediator, bringing all the information to your dispatch cohort, which is fantastic. So you can bring dietitians on, you can bring nutritionists on, you can bring sleep experts on, you can bring chrono nutrition experts on, you can bring all sorts of people. You can also, just talking to other dispatchers, Ash, talking to other dispatchers and how they go about doing things. Sometimes these can be light bulb moments for people that you think, oh my God, I never thought about doing that.
Yeah, so true. So true. I think with every conversation I have, I take away even the simplest things. I'm like,
Yep.
I don't know why I wasn't doing that before.
It's so obvious. Some things are just so obvious. I know I've had guests on my podcast that I've got, like, it's just been a brain explosion. And I think, oh my God, I've been doing this for 38 years and I still didn't know that. And this is why we need to be here. This is why we need to be bringing awareness to all of these sort of things. So, it's very important. So let's talk about, can we talk about my 5 pillars of health?
Please. Yes. What are the 5 pillars?
Yeah. So I've got 5 pillars of health, which I actually work with clients on. And these are very, very simple. Not always easy to apply, but these are very, very simple. Now, the first one is sleep. Yep. No.
Well, I wasn't getting that last night when I was.
Yeah. Well, you weren't scrolling. Oh, you were scrolling. But, sleep it's the number 1 pillar. And the reason why it is the number 1 pillar is because it impacts in so many areas in our life, right? And it does. Now, a lot of people have massive trouble as shift workers sleeping. And there's a reason for that, because we're totally out of sync with our circadian rhythm. Now, we have a biological day, we have a biological night. Now, who would have thought that the biological day is when the sun's up and the biological night is when the sun's down, right? The moon's up. Who would have thought? But the bottom line is, even though we're out of sync with it, we can still build that sleep pressure to put us to sleep, but we have to create that environment. So around sleep, we can do 1%ers. And that 1%er, Ash, I'm going to call you out here. Looking at that phone, we cannot, with light, and we're looking at that phone, we're holding that phone a matter of inches from our faces, we're looking at it. That light is actually triggering to simplify it, triggering our brain to say, oh, you need to be awake. You need to be awake. Now, you can be in a dark room, but that light directly on your, I won't use the terminology, but in your eye, that light is actually telling your brain, okay, we need to be awake. No sleep hormones. We're going to be awake. We stay awake. That's it. So that really does cause us all sorts of problems. So we need to put those phones away. And we need to create a sleep hygiene, a routine to go to sleep. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're going to sleep in the evening before a day shift, or whether we're going to sleep, at any stage, or coming home from an afternoon shift, or whether we're coming home from a full 12-hour night shift. If we keep that routine going and we build the habits on that routine, we can actually create that environment, for our people to go to sleep. And if we keep the same routine going, it becomes a habit for our body to go, oh, okay, so this is what we do because we're going to sleep. No phone, blue light blockers, put on a sleep mask. Ladies, taking your face off and putting the creams on your face, the smells of the creams and that routine, having a shower, a nice hot shower, and then getting into bed. And, as our body cools, it goes to sleep. That routine is what makes a big difference. And that's just sleep.
Yeah. Wow.
So, there's a lot in it, but we can create that routine every time we go to sleep, because in the words of Tom Coleman, who's a sleep expert, we actually don't have a sleep problem. What we have is a social priorities problem, which is so true.
That's true.
Don't we? We do, because, I'm sure you come home from your night shift and you think, oh, I'll just put a load of washing on, and, oh, hang on a second, what's that? Oh, I'll just get this meal ready for tonight. Oh, I've just got to do this. Oh, I've just got to do that. And we do all these things that causes grief. Now, the priority needs to be to go into that routine. So from the time you leave work, put your blue light blockers on, drive home, go around, leave them on, keep your phone away. You're not missing out on anything. I swear to God, you are not missing out. You're going to be there the next day. But this is the problem. We have FOMO, don't we?
Yeah, no. And I think one thing that does occur, I think we are more likely to come out of our routines, especially if
Yep.
we build good ones on stressful work days, right? So
Absolutely. Mm.
when I've had a normal shift, I'm probably going to be more likely to do whatever my routine is, jump into bed. When I'm a little more amped, maybe I took a hot call right before the end of my watch and I'm driving home and I'm still, up that roller coaster, still coming down. I think those are the moments where it's more challenging to stick to those routines.
Totally agree with that. And research actually shows that that is the time that it does fall apart. But when you look at it, why is it falling apart? It's because we're stressed. But why are we stressed? Because our routine's falling apart as well. Whereas that's the time we need to be in that routine,
Mhm.
practice our nose breathing, practice our breathing. Like, there's so many different things that you can actually do. But when we are stressed, that's the time that we need to really focus on these habits that we build that gets us from that sympathetic state, that fight or flight, that stress, into a parasympathetic state, so that we're more calm and we then
Mhm.
cope with that stress a lot better. Because I can just promise you, stress will get you, Ashley. Make no
Yeah.
bones about it. You can be fit and healthy, but stress can cause you a massive incident very, very quickly, especially as a
Mhm.
shift worker with our biological markers in such a big mess as well.
Definitely. So what is the second pillar? If sleep's the first, what is the second?
Well, the second pillar is hydration. And you're going to
Mm.
go, what? Hydration? What do you mean by that? Hydration. Do you know it's
That's coffee, right?
bless. Yes. Yeah.
That's caffeine.
Well, that's water. That's water, isn't it? Bless. I love that. Yeah, that's so good. That's coffee, right? Um, Hydration. Now, we need to be more hydrated than the regular 9 to 5er as shift workers because, and if you think about it, Ash, as a dispatcher, you're sitting there for extended periods of time. You're pretty much sitting there
Mhm.
for 12 hours. Now, I'm not sure how long you do in your spell of working, but our dispatchers here do an hour and a half and then they have a half-hour break. They do an hour and a half and have a half-hour break. What do you do there?
Well, if we're lucky,
Oh,
we
yeah.
get we get pretty much our lunch is a 30-minute lunch, and then we get 2:15 throughout our day, at our
Throughout a whole
12-hour shift.
12-hour shift?
Yeah, I mean, at the smaller agency, we have if it's not slammed, you can go off the floor, your partner can watch it,
Yep, yep.
there's a lot more
Flexibility.
non-flexibility in it.
Yep,
But as
yep.
far as what like you're guaranteed, that's what we're guaranteed,
Mm,
during our shift,
okay.
which
Yeah, that's
could use
interesting
some
because
help for sure.
okay, so hydration is vital because you are very sedentary, Ash. So
Mhm,
this is hydration, and I'm going to come to it because I want to talk about males versus females on night shift as well later.
mhm,
But I'll talk about the hydration now. It's really important that we have a higher level of hydration. We're more sedentary. So we need to keep moving everything through our system. So it's really,
mhm,
really important that we do keep that water going through our system to keep our system moving. So a high level of hydration. Now, before you ask, you're going to ask me what's the standard amount of water that we need to drink.
the magic number.
What's the magic number? Because we always hear, oh, you've got to have 2 liters or you've got to have 8
Mhm,
cups. But do you know the researched amount, the correct amount is actually just clear urine. If your
mhm,
urine's clear or straw colored, then that's sufficient. That's enough water. Even at
mhm,
athlete level, that's enough water for you to have. So
mhm.
anyone listening, if you want to know how much water you need to drink, all you got to do is monitor your urine. If your urine's clear or straw colored, you're right. No problems at all. Some people drink more water than others. It's no good me
Mhm.
telling someone who weighs 180 pounds that you need to drink 2 liters of water, and then someone who weighs, let's just say 120 pounds, you need to drink 2 liters of water because it's totally different, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it really, really is. And I remember when I used to coach basketball, I coached high school, and I would tell to get my high school kids to understand that they needed to drink more water.
Yes.
Um, I would tell them, I want you to be waking up in the middle of the night, having to use the restroom, cursing me out because you're so hydrated,
Yes. Yeah. Well, and one of the biggest problems that we do have is for the people who, follow this account for shift working things as well, is it's very, very difficult for our police and our paramedics, because they're wearing PPE, they're wearing a lot of equipment, particularly the females. It's a lot harder for females to go to the bathroom, let's face it, than it is for men. And we all know why, and we don't need to go into the details around that, do we? But
that's on our nighttime edition of Let's Talk Dispatch.
That's the nighttime edition. Yeah. There's some stories for that too, by the way.
Yeah,
But anyway,
I would imagine.
the thing is, the fact is, it isn't as easy for females to be able to go to the bathroom, so they do avoid drinking. But one of the main symptoms of dehydration is fatigue, and people who drink more and more and more water find that they're less fatigued. And also, the other thing that's important to know around hydration as well is, because the sensor's in the same part of our brain, we can actually confuse hunger for dehydration. So what happens is we can think, oh, God, I'm hungry. Like, I really want something to eat. I need to have something to eat. But if you actually have a drink, you can find that will that can actually, oh, I actually wasn't hungry. I was just thirsty. And you can drink, and it can make a difference to you as well. So that's my other pillar, hydration. It's a symptom. Dehydration is a symptom of fatigue. So it's one of those ones that's really important that we need to make sure that we keep our hydration high.
Definitely. No, I've been through it where I'm 3 a.m. and I'm like, I'm hungry.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm probably not. And then I drink and it goes away because A, we're just kind of bored, and B, we haven't been drinking for X amount of time. So your body's trying to get you to cue in,
Yep. And how easy is it, like on night shift, to board eat? And we do that, don't we, Ash? Like, there's no secret of the fact that we can just sit there and just, the vending machines are there, and we can just grab and eat. And it's the worst thing that we can do, which brings me to my third pillar. And my third pillar is actually nutrition. Now, everyone goes, yeah, Roger, I know, I understand it. But, there are things that we can do around nutrition which are important. Now, I know you've had Raina on, so I'm not going to dance around and cover Raina's, what's she, the shift work dietitian. So I'm not going to dance around on what Raina's done, because she does fantastic work with what she's doing. She's a dietitian. She's more qualified than I am around it. So let's not back over that, but we'll just talk about nutrition is my third pillar of health. And it's important. What I do is I encourage the fast between midnight and 6 a.m., which is really, really important, that people have a main meal around 22:30 to 23:30 in particular, a good protein, carb, and fat meal, and then they literally try and fast from midnight to 6 a.m., which is really important because our pancreas doesn't produce as much insulin. We're very insulin resistant. Anything that we eat tends to float around as glucose in our blood, gets parked as body fat. That's the science. That's the bottom line. So whatever you're eating overnight, you can be pretty sure that it's going to body fat at that point in time, even though you're awake. So
something so simple, right? That's one of those light bulb moments. Like, you need a reason.
Well, we need a reason. But I'm very, very big on the overnight fast. I work with clients. Now, look, Ashley, a lot of people go, I can't go all night, or they can go from midnight to 6 a.m. that when they get to 6 a.m., they're counting it down 10, 9, 8. Oh my God, 6 o'clock. Now I can eat. Bang, beautiful. And then they massively overeat. Now, we want to avoid that, because that's something that we must avoid. We don't fast or restrict at the cost of having a binge at the end of it, because that's even worse, right?
Yeah,
and it can create really disordered eating. So what I suggest is to people, as they start to do this, and if you have a substantial meal about 22:30 to 23:30, sorry, we're in a position where we are quite full overnight really easily. We can board eat, but we've got to question that in our own mind. Am I bored? Am I thirsty? Am I just eating for the sake of doing something? But if you can't get through, we all know that by about 4 a.m. when we really crash, that it's time for us to have something to eat. And that's when you're reaching for those highly palatable carbohydrates and fats. That's a good time to have yourself something like a Greek yogurt with berries. Just to have some good Greek. It's a bit of protein. It slips through the system really easily. It's not putting any pressure on our digestive tract to actually eat, to digest it, and it slips through, makes it nice and easy, doesn't put any strain on our system. And then what happens is it goes through our system, and it just satiates us again, and it gives us a bit of that sweetness that we're looking for as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what we are looking for, because our body is craving glucose. It's looking for an energy source, an instant energy source. Oh my God, I'm tired. I'm so tired. Give me all the energy. Where do we get energy from? Glucose. Where does glucose come from? Carbohydrates. Give me biscuits.
I would eat a biscuit at 2 a.m. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, have a biscuit. Give me a biscuit. Give me chips. I want chips. I want cake. I want slice.
Yeah.
Give me all the lollies. I want the whole lot. Give me everything. That's
And
what
then half the time, our centers, at least here in the States, our centers, they have full kitchens. So if you didn't bring food, you could make a whole, so it's not even.
Yeah. You can make a gourmet dinner. Yeah, that's right. So, but even a bit of protein with cheese and crackers is ideal as well. A bit of protein with a bit of carbohydrate at the same time. So we get a little bit of energy. We're getting a bit of protein. We're getting a bit of fat. We're getting the whole spectrum there. So, and what I tell people is those Baby Bell cheeses. Now you can only take a couple, because otherwise you just smash the whole packet. And that's less than ideal. But yeah, take a little bit and just have a little bit. So that's a really good one. So that's my third pillar, nutrition. I just strongly support the fast overnight if people can do it. But if you can't do it, don't force yourself at the cost of a binge when you get home. But then just fast overnight, have the yogurt and the berries, or a little bit of cheese and crackers, a little bit of, Baby Bell cheeses with a few little crackers to have, just to tie you over until you can get home and have that carbohydrate and protein meal before you go to bed.
Awesome.
Yep. The next pillar is movement, which is really, really important. Now, movement is easy to say, and as you've clearly told me, you do it 12 hours, you get a couple of breaks and, a bit of time for lunch. Well, lunch is to eat. Or not, which I've just covered, but but we do need to move. We need to keep moving. Our endocrine system is designed for us to move. Our body is designed to move so that it pumps the blood and move. Now, where we can't do that within our shift, we still need to do that outside of our shift. It's super important that we just take ourselves for walks or move. Now, I use the term movement. I don't call it exercise, because I think exercise conjures up all sorts of images of having to put exercise equipment gear on, grabbing a gym bag, filling a protein shaker, getting in the car, driving to the gym, playing with weights, then driving home again, and then going and having a shower, and then 2 hours is gone, and I don't have time for that. So I don't, that's why I don't call it exercise per se. I just call it movement, because any movement is good movement, and we can keep moving and just going for a walk. Now, research shows, and particularly for like dispatchers, and we're talking more to the dispatchers here, being vertical and forward motion is actually extremely good for your mental health, and research is showing this. So if you can just take yourself for a walk. Now, don't set yourself a 10,000 step goal or a 12,000 step goal or 8,000. It's just irrelevant, right? Get up and go for a walk. Now, you don't have to carve out an hour either. If you can just go for a walk around the block, phone a friend. Just phone a friend and go for a walk and chat with your friend while you go for a walk. Fantastic. Go around the block a few times and then go home. And then later on in the day, go around the block a few times and then go home. And what happens is, I live on the mantra of action precedes motivation. So you tend to find that once you've done that a few times, it starts to feel really good and you start to feel better. So you tend to do more and more and more of it until you start carving out, and all of a sudden it's an hour walking and you just feel fantastic. And then you start to feel lighter. It's not the burden of weight, it's the burden of the mental weight on you. And taking yourself for a walk is just so beneficial. So I just suggest that people do a walk. That's my movement.
I love that, the idea behind that. So I used to play basketball in college, and back when I was chasing scholarships and trying to do the thing, we would work out weights, multiple workouts a day and all that good stuff. And now that I'm no longer a quote unquote college athlete, I've had to really rewrite that idea of exercise and what that looks like in my head, because it is movement, right? It's simply movement, consistent movement. And it doesn't have to be this long drawn out where I'm body lifting and doing full wind sprints. And it can just be something as simple as walking around the block, chatting with a friend, as you said, which I think is super important for us in this line of work, is as dispatchers to realize it can be that simple.
Ashley, we are fatigued. We are tired, right? And to go through the mental decision making of getting our gym gear on, driving to the gym, walking into a gym and doing weights and coming out. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not making excuses, because there are people out there that absolutely thrive on that and they love it, and all power to them. But that doesn't mean that Jenny has to do that and Ashley has to do that and Mary has to do that, because they might not be able to cope with that. It's not good for them. And it's not fair for the other people to say to them, no, this is what you've got to do. You have to do this. You don't. Just a simple walk. Phone a friend and go for a walk, or listen to a podcast, or listen to the Raspberry Dispatcher, or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Like, or the A Healthy Shift podcast.
Or listen to yeah. Kudos to that. But, what I'm saying is, we do put too much emphasis on exercise over movement. Vacuuming the floor, mopping the floor, that's movement. That's important. Even just going up to the shop and pushing a shopping trolley around. Let's acknowledge that that's a movement as well, because there are a lot of people that crawl out of bed, crawl across the floor, go on the couch, sit there on the couch, smash a packet of Doritos, watching Netflix, and then go back to work again. See, that's a recipe for disaster. And then they wonder why they feel so miserable and they're depressed. And life is also oppressive. If you go for a walk, you'll be amazed at the difference that it makes. It's not about feeling 100% fitter, but you will feel healthier all round.
Yeah, totally true. Totally true.
So that's number 4. And my 5th one is stress. And we have to manage our stress, Ashley. It's really, really important, because stress impacts in so many ways. And I added stress as my pillar after my episode, because I was fit and healthy. I thought I was fit and healthy in a big way until I had the episode. And then what I did do was I decided to add stress, and I've started researching and managing my own stress to make sure that I am, work fit for that. It's caused me all sorts of grief. So one of the things that's important, and I'll just give you a very, very simple tip to anybody listening and for yourself as well. Notice that when you're working, if you're breathing through your mouth, then you are stressed, right? Because mouth breathing is pretty much a parasympathetic is a sympathetic state that we put ourselves in, because one of the first things that happens is we open our mouth and we start breathing through our mouth. So to anybody that's out working in your emergency services, have a look at your colleague, and if they're breathing through their mouth, they're actually stressed. And if you're breathing through your mouth, you're actually stressed. Nose breathing is imperative to us. So if you're feeling quite overwhelmed with a dispatch event that you're handling, you're feeling quite overwhelmed, literally close your mouth and breathe slowly through your nose in and out. Now, that's easy for me to say. Don't get me wrong, Ashley. I totally understand that. But if you take a second to just close your mouth and start breathing through your nose, 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out, 4 seconds in, just take those breaths. You will feel yourself calming. You will literally feel yourself calming. And it makes a massive difference to us, because look around at your colleagues, look around at people, and if they're sitting about mouth breathing, it's not healthy for us to be in that state. Now, when we exercise, and I'm talking exercise here, going for a run, or we're doing weights in a gym, or we're playing sport or something like that, mouth breathing, because we are in a sympathetic state. We're in a fight or flight, and that's healthy for us at that stage. But we need to get back into that parasympathetic state very quickly. And we can do that by literally closing our mouth, breathing through our nose, 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And you will feel yourself calming. And this is what like your SWAT teams and things like that do before they go to events. You'll find that they're nose breathing, box breathing, and nose breathing. They practice all sorts of things to help them to stay calm as they're approaching these events, which really, really helps them. So nose breathing is the key.
And I definitely think that, I mean, it's always easier said than done, right? But we have to really learn to do these things in the moment as well, so they don't compound and get, heavier and heavier on us. If we can learn to manage our stress, and we're not going to be perfect, we're not, it's not going to be 100% thing, but if we can acknowledge the mouth breathing, be very intentional of closing our mouths during that event and really focusing on that breathing like a SWAT officer would, we're going to be better off in the long run at the end of our shift, managing our stress.
Absolutely. Because it's an exercise that we have to practice until it becomes a muscle memory as well. But if you're vigilant and you check in with yourself, and I always get clients, just check in with yourself. When you're going through one of these major events and it's stressful, check in with yourself. How am I sitting? Am I mouth breathing? Nose breathe. Close my eyes for a second. I know, you're talking all the time on the radio. I get that. Totally understand that. But those officers out on the road there are still dealing with that. You can take 1 second to just breathe through your nose and breathe out through your nose. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your nose. You can just take that few seconds to calm yourself, because when we are stressed, we've got more chance of making a mistake as well, Ashley. You know what I mean? Like when we're stressed, our brain doesn't function properly either, because that's not all it wants to do is get away from the problem that it's dealing with. Get away. That's why it's called fight or flight, a sympathetic state. Fight or flight. I'm either going to stand here and fight or I've got to go, but I'm going to buckle up for, that's why we find ourselves sweating. We find our heart rate increases. We breathe through our mouth to bring our heart rate up. All this happens. Close your mouth, breathe through your nose, and you'll find it will make a massive difference to you. So tomorrow, when you go to work tomorrow and you're on the channel, while you're sitting there, just check in with yourself. Oh God, I'm breathing through my mouth. And just breathe. Feel the calm. You will literally feel the calm coming over you as you breathe through your nose. Even though you're looking at the same screen, you're sitting in the same chair, you've got the same headset on, you're doing exactly the same everything. Just breathing through your nose, feel the difference. Come back to me on that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I look forward to, because it's just like, I understand like being stressed and like mindful breathing and things like that, but just something that's so tangible that you can look and go, or I can feel it and see, and like without, even if I don't feel stressed, right? And it's just my body's natural tell. I mean, that's something we can all kind of take away and look for as an identifier for when we are stressed, even though we're not necessarily feeling it per se. Our body is, right?
That's right. We may not think we're in a stressful situation, but if we're breathing through our mouth, there's something that is stressing us somewhere, as in it's subconscious. It might be something subconscious. You might be subconsciously thinking about the row that you had with your partner or something like that. It could be anything. But I can pretty much guarantee to you, Ashley, that if you literally become vigilant and continually check in with yourself, continually, and it doesn't have to become a distraction, but until it becomes a habit, and it definitely does become a habit. There's no doubt about it. It definitely becomes a habit that you check in with yourself. Okay, this is stressful. Mouth breathe. No. Close my mouth. Breathe through my nose. 4 seconds in. 6 seconds out. You can just feel yourself calming. You can really feel yourself calming as you're doing it. And you're taking stock. You're just stopping everything going haywire and going crazy, and you find that you are literally taking stock, and it will calm you. And I think that's probably a really good strategy for all dispatchers, because it does get very, very, very stressful, doesn't it?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, and especially because I went from a bigger center to a smaller center, the type of stress can be different, right? So I have less call volume at my new center, but there's only me and my partner usually, and if we're lucky, a third. So the stress is higher because there's only two of us doing, this job that requires six, so
Yeah, yeah,
so it's just different levels of stress and being able to manage that stress
yeah.
in every type of center.
And the other thing too, Ash, is the more experience we get, the more anxious we get about the next call as well. Don't
Mhm.
we?
Mhm.
When you're first new, you're worried about, Mrs. Tibbins' pussycat stuck in the tree, like, big deal. That's a job, like, so
Yeah.
what? But as you get more experience and you've had some nasty calls that you've had to deal with, you do get to the stage where you can start to anticipate and start to feel a bit anxious about calls as well. Another
Mhm.
way to control that is through your breathing as well. And as I said, it's one of the first things, or one of the important things that they teach your SWAT teams and forced entry teams and things like that. They do teach them these box breathing and this nose breathing to actually slow them down so that they
Mhm.
make clear decisions and they're not clouded by stress. So there you go. So that's my 5. So there's sleep, there's nutrition, there's movement, there's stress, and hydration. They're the
Mhm.
5. And if you can do 1% stepping in the right direction of each of those every single day, 1%, just one tiny little step. How can I
Mhm.
improve my hydration? I'm going to carry a water bottle, but I can't get to the bathroom. I can still do this outside of work time as well. Do you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah, just those 1%ers can make a big difference stepping forward. You nail those 5 and you will be in a much better position around shift work.
That's awesome. No, thank you so much for sharing that. I think the pillars that you've created are manageable and obtainable and simple. And I think for shift workers, they need a little bit of all of that, right? In order to be able to give that 1%
Oh, totally.
outside of their tiredness,
Oh,
for sure.
totally. Totally. But the sleep impacts, I put the sleep as the umbrella over the top of the whole lot because it impacts so much in those other areas as well. And with nutrition, the one thing, because I educate clients on intuitive eating. So it's not about here's your calories, here's your macros, this is what you need, away you go. Monday we start, here's your meal plans. That's too overwhelming for people, Ashley. But
Mhm.
1%, okay, tonight I'm going to try to fast and I'm just going to take 2 Baby Bell cheeses and a couple of crackers in and just have that overnight. I've got that to look forward to and I'm going to have that. And I'm going to do that every night I'm on night shift until it becomes a straight out habit and I feel so much better for it. And then you can start to implement something else because in 12 months' time, Ashley doesn't know the Ashley from 12 months ago because you're a totally different person by just doing those
Mhm.
1%ers.
Exactly. Exactly. So, what do you offer as a one-on-one coach? Like what does someone who's coming to work with you, what do they expect?
Okay, so someone that comes to me, and what I do is I'm running them through the 10 principles of intuitive eating, and people can Google what those are. So if people Google the 10 principles of intuitive eating, you'll see that there's all different principles. Now, I work through those principles with people. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not a certified intuitive eating coach, but I'm a certified nutritionist. So I've just learned that shift workers do not have the time to be taking photos, weighing themselves, doing measures, weighing their food, doing meal preps, doing everything. I want them to check back in with all of their have more interoceptive awareness. So they've got
Mhm.
more awareness of, am I hungry or am I thirsty? Where do I feel that? Is that what it should be? Is this what I should be doing? How should I be going about this? So what happens is when they come to me, we step through that. So they get a worksheet from me, which is a very minor sort of worksheet. Some clients, they don't feel like they're doing much, but we're actually laying foundations as we go. It's a minimum 12 weeks with me to get the idea of what we do. But I've got a lot of clients that have been with me for 6 to some clients have been with me 10 months, and we're still going through. So every week they do a worksheet, which has only got like 5 or 6 questions on it or exercises for them just to check in with themselves. So
Mhm.
they submit that to me on the Sunday. And on the Sunday, they complete my check in, which is done through an app on their phone. And on that app, I have habits. It's pushed to them to remind them to do them every day. And the habits might be to, when you wake up, have 500 mils of water. 500 mil. You notice before I used pounds, not kilograms, and now I've been caught out on mils versus ounces. But about an 8-ounce glass of water, I think it works out about 8 ounces.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm guessing here, Ash.
Trust me, I'm not going to do the conversion for you.
No, me neither. I'm not going to get the Google machine out. But anyone, 500 mil of water when you first wake up to re-energize your body to start off with, that's a good habit to get into when you first wake up. Excuse me. Yeah, and I get people to do that. So that forms a habit. And once they've nailed that as a habit and said, yeah, I just do this as a matter, then we take that habit out. On a Sunday, they do check-ins, which I've got questions which people answer the questions that I've got preset questions for them about what roadblocks did they hit, where have they struggled, where would they like help. And then what we do is every Monday, and because they're shift workers, it might be Sunday, it might be Tuesday, but and it rolls around depending on what their shifts are. On a Monday, I have a half-hour video consult with them where we work through the issues that they've actually had. So they get accountability, they get me over the top of them, helping them with any issues. The way I look at clients, Ashley, is I imagine that they're on one mountain peak and I'm on another mountain peak, and I've got to navigate them to me over all the terrain in between to get to me to where I'm at, so that they have a better understanding. And at the same time, I get rid of all the bullshit around dieting and exercise and what's got to happen. Because, the bottom line is research shows that it's calories in, calories out. There is no doubt. It's about energy balance, full stop. But it's a lot more complex than that, because you've got to fix the 6 inches between your ears before you can fix the 6 inches around your waist. Do you know what I mean?
And that's true.
Yeah, it is. We've got to get that right, because we all have, one of the biggest contributors to disordered eating is body image issues. So many people have body image issues. And if you can teach people to your dispatchers, I'm a radio dispatcher. I'm charged with the responsibility. I come into work, I sit there. I can talk on the telephone. I can operate a mouse. I can operate a keyboard. I've got a voice. I've got a brain that can think where to send units, how to send units. I can read a job. Hey, is that not something that's outstanding about your body?
It's amazing. I mean, our job is so awesome. Yeah.
I watch my partner when she's got the phone in one ear, she's got the radio in the other ear, she's got her foot pushing on the pedal, she's typing on the keyboard, and she's listening to the units. Are you kidding? How do you do that? I know she's female, and females can do that, whereas males can't. Oh, well, it's actually, I think it's called domestic deafness, but that's beside the point. But I think that's just amazing. So instead of thinking, oh, I'm overweight and I need to look like that Fitzbo, what about you just acknowledge just what a superhuman, amazing person that you are, doing what you're doing, and how appreciated you actually are for doing what you're doing. That's how I work with clients, Ashley, to start acknowledging positive body. It's negative body image is not the direct opposite to positive body image. Positive body image is about acknowledging and embracing what our body does for us every single day. You and I are sitting here. We're all over technology. I'm sitting here in Melbourne, Australia. You're sitting there in the San Francisco Bay region. We are communicating via this, helping people all around the world doing this. Is that not amazing?
It's so cool.
And yet we can sit here and feel like we're carrying a few extra pounds. Big,
You're absolutely right. Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah, and that's why we need to just let go of this, how we're supposed to look. Who says how we're supposed to look? Who says how we're supposed to behave? Who says how? Women, I think in particular, I think females, because I predominantly work with females because I'm all over women's health, and I work very hard. I'm well studied in women's health, and because I think it's very important, because women do have a lot more issues than males do, because it's a much more complex issue for them. But I think women, since they were 8 years old, when their body starts hormonally changing, there's an expectation on them. This is how you got to behave. This is how you've got to look. Oh my God, my body's changing. Hormonally, I'm up, I'm down, I'm up, I'm down. Oh, what's going on now? 1 minute you want to stick an ice pick in someone's temple. Next minute you want to hug them. Do you know, it's a complex issue that we need to just take the pressure off the females and acknowledge them for how amazing they are. They can have babies and they can raise children and they can do radio dispatch and tell cops where to go and get away with it.
So true. I definitely think that there is a need to acknowledge, like, well, I always say that, like, once you learn to be a dispatcher, you can do anything, right? Because it's such a challenging job.
I agree.
That you can't just yank someone off the street and put them in our chair. It's such a learned skill, and you're constantly learning, especially with like technology coming and all these new advancements. We're just constantly changing in this realm. And you're absolutely correct that we need to really acknowledge the superhuman abilities that folks have as dispatchers, call takers, radio dispatchers in this field. I mean, it's phenomenal.
That's exactly right. So let's turn it around and stop worrying about, oh, the uniform's got tight. Get the next size up. Who cares, right? Be comfortable while you're being superhuman doing the job that you're doing. It's not about giving up. It's just taking the constant reminder away from you and being comfortable, full stop. So, Ashley, that is literally how I work with clients, to change this perception of stop scrolling the social media, looking at, females that are ripped with abs in bikinis while you're sitting there doing something that they could not possibly do. That's their highlight reel. You couldn't drag them in, put them in a chair, put a headset on them and say, right, do this. Because they couldn't do it. Just like you can't do what they're doing. So let's just get rid of that and just acknowledge the fact that you're amazing.
I love that. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much for that Jim. I think it's amazing. And I think it's something that a lot of people need to hear.
Yeah, I agree.
In this line of work. First responders in general, right? Because of all the stress and the things that we take on, no matter what role as a first responder you are in. I think we need to hear that more often than not right now.
Agreed. Because everyone loves to ring and complain, don't they? But no one turns around and says, hey, you're amazing. And I know people go, yeah. It's just a token to try and make me feel better. But I literally work on that with clients. That's what I work on until people actually start to believe it, because it's true. Do you know what I mean? Like, we need this pointing out and drumming into us that when you're driving to work and you've put the uniform on and you're thinking, oh, on Monday I've got to start a diet. Screw that. Don't worry about starting the diet on Monday. Get a bigger uniform or, whatever you're wearing to work. Go into work, sit in that chair and be proud of what you're doing, because that person that you just saw on Instagram, they can't do that. They can't do what you're doing.
Definitely. So with that, I think that's a good segue into what advice would you give someone who is thinking about diving into a career such as dispatching or any first responder shift work type of career?
I think one of the most important things for people in relation to that, without any doubt whatsoever, is have someone like me or a shift work coach that can guide you the best way to go about this, the best way to go about it, what the research is telling us, so that we can break it down and help you. Get guidance early, because it's much easier to start with the right foundations and work forward with that, or work away from that negative place, than it is to find 4 years down the track when you're totally burnt out, totally stressed. It becomes extremely overwhelming. So if someone is considering a job in dispatch, if you get through the selection process and get to the dispatch, first of all, I want you to be super proud of yourself for actually getting there, right? That's the most important thing, because it is such an integral role. It is so important. And I know from an LEO on the road how important the dispatchers are to us at the other end. I know that, right? And people need to appreciate them more. And I think in the US, they probably do appreciate them more maybe than here. I'm not sure. I think they are very appreciated. It's probably much the same. But and I think having visited the centres over there, it's a sausage factory. It's amazing. I was blown away by how it worked in the US. I visited the call centre in Brooklyn. Oh, it's now moved to Queens, but it was in Brooklyn at the time. But oh my God, I remember my eyes were popping out of my head. I couldn't believe the difference. Like even though our little island down here in Australia is as big as mainland USA, we don't have the population. But here I was in Manhattan and listening to radio around Manhattan. I couldn't believe it. I was just blown away. Like 95 dispatches. I'm thinking, what?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. But, be proud of getting to that first. But the next thing to do is don't just go by, Jenny, what are you doing? Oh, Mary, what are you doing? Find someone who knows. Find someone who understands it. Find someone who can help you to set you up into really good routines and good habits, and stick with that, because the temptations are there, aren't they, Ash? As you move through, when you first started, there was no education. So you were looking at your mentor who was sitting there eating chips and lollies overnight and thinking, oh, well, this is what we do. And then the weight starts to creep on, and then you start to feel miserable about yourself, and you think, oh, I've got to start a diet on Monday, and can't do this, can't do that. What's the best way to go? But I don't know. I'll just do this. So I think that would be the best advice that I would give someone. Be fiercely proud of what you're doing. First up, that's the first thing you should do. But then start nailing those pillars of what I spoke about, and get help. If that's hard for you, get someone to hold you and keep you accountable and guide you from one mountain peak to the next, so that you can really set some good habits for the future. Because as much as shift work is less than optimal, you can optimize it.
That's great. Thank you so much for that, Roger. And thank you so much for coming onto the show, being willing to reach out and jump on with me. How do people find you if they want to work with you?
I'm everywhere. People can find me on a healthy shift on at _healthy_shift on Instagram. So if people wanted to come on and they can find me, I can't help myself. I answer DMs and things like that. I would love to connect with people in the US. I would love for people to share me in the US around that, because I want to get to the stage where I start running health and wellbeing seminars, worldwide, to educate shift workers in their health and wellbeing around what we're going to do, around their optimizing shift work for them. I also have a website where everything's on my website, which is ahealthyshift.com. You can find me there. You can find out all about me there, my coaching, what my coaching entails. And also I've got some blogs on there, and we didn't get to it, but there's a few blogs on there in relation to nutritional considerations for females performing shift work in particular, which I think people will find very, very handy. And there's also a free ebook on my website that people can actually download, which is why it's important for us to fast overnight and how to structure the overnight fast. It's a free ebook. It's on my website. I highly recommend that people go and get that, download it. If they've got any questions, by all means, come to me and I'm more than happy to help.
That's awesome. And I'll definitely include all of those links and fun stuff in the information section of these videos. You also have a podcast for everyone who I love podcasts. So
yeah, well, podcast is the medium of the future. I used to do my walk and talks on my Insta story every day. And it's hard. By the time you do it, you walk, you talk, you get off it, and people lose it. It's gone. It's nice for people to go back to podcasts. So what I did is I started my own podcast, which is A Healthy Shift. You'll see my smiling dial there. A Healthy Shift. And what I do is they released every Monday and Friday at 6 a.m. Australian time, which would be Sunday evening and Thursday evening for you guys in the US. And I release those. So I have espresso episodes. So my first 3 episodes are espresso. They go for around 12 to 20 minutes. They're just short grabs around strategies around shift work. And then every 2 weeks on a Friday, I have a guest interview which goes for an hour, like this, where I talk to people over an hour around that are experts in their field, whether it's around body image, whether it's around sleep, whether it's around circadian rhythms. And in fact, the one that I've got this week is Dr. Olivia Walsh coming up. She's a circadian rhythm expert talking about we're developing a shift app for shift workers to help them with light, dark food exposures and movement exposure to help them to keep in sync as much as they can with their circadian rhythm so they feel better. And I've got that out being tested at the moment with 30 users. And the data that's coming back is phenomenal. It's amazing. So we're developing an app which is coming because, you know, we all love our phones. So we need an app on the phone. So, yeah, so I talk about that.
That is so awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for jumping on with me. I have learned so much in such a short amount of time. I can only imagine what people learn from you when listening to your podcast, working with you one-on-one. And I definitely am going to put all your information in there so we can connect with you.
Thank you. I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to actually be able to speak to the Raspberry Dispatcher and hear those tones. It's fantastic. Ashley, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right, I'll be right back with you, Roger. All right, everybody, that was another amazing episode here on the Raspberry Dispatcher. Let's Talk Dispatch. Definitely going to include all of Roger's information for a healthy shift in the information of this video. So definitely give him a follow, check out his podcast and his website. And until next time, everybody, stay raspy. Thanks for joining us on today's episode of Let's Talk Dispatch. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube at The Raspy Dispatcher, follow us on Instagram, and check out Let's Talk Dispatch anywhere you listen to podcasts. I'll see you next time, and stay raspy.